Hello my loves, welcome back. Today we're going to discuss Uttanasana, standing forward fold. We're going to talk about how to do it, modifications for the pose, and some common mistakes and the quick fixes. Let's dive in. So to come into Uttanasana, standing forward fold, just come into a standing position here. Feet maybe around hip distance apart. Kind of balance the weight evenly on the balls to the heel of the foot. Take a nice deep inhale, and as you exhale, hinge at the hips, folding forward over the legs, letting the torso fold towards the floor, letting the head relax. Maybe the hands connect to the floor, and just letting the upper, lower back, glutes, hamstrings and calves release here and find some length through the back body. As you're down here, then notice, do the hands connect to the floor? Is it just the fingertips? Can you get the full palm on the floor? And as you find yourself here, then take a look at your feet. Where are the feet pointing to? Are they pointing straight ahead? Are they pointing in? Are they turned out? Is one more turned out than the other? Do you have more weight on the inside or the outside edges of your feet? And again, is one different to the other? Take another breath. Soften the knees, pull the navel to the spine, unfold. Rising into standing. Okay, so that was Uttanasana, our standing forward fold. Now let's look at some modifications, either for beginners or if you have any muscular tightness in your back body. So the first thing that I'm going to suggest here is that if you find that your hands don't connect to the floor when you fold forward, use a chair or some blocks for support. So step closer to your chair. Again, from the hips, hinge forward and just rest the hands onto the chair or onto a block. So another thing here is that in Uttanasana, we often think that our legs need to be straight. And the thing is that that can kind of pull on the origin and the insertion of the hamstring. So if you're the kind of person that feels it in the joint at the back of the knee or right into the sit bones on your hamstrings, then please, please, please bend the knees. Bending the knees is perfectly fine. If that's what you need to do to get yourself further towards the floor and kind of spread the load through the back body, then please bend the knees. Spread the love. So quite often in a standing forward fold, people think that their weak link is their hamstrings, that they have tight hamstrings. However, quite often what gets mistaken for tight hamstrings is actually tight calves. And you'll know that because I want you to try this trick. And it's simple, just get yourself either a wedge or a blanket or a book, something that's about 2 inches thick that you can prop up your heel. So you can see here that my heels are elevated now. It's like I'm wearing 2-inch heels. And as you fold forward again here, can you get further towards the floor? Can you keep the legs straighter? What happens for you? How does that change the pose? Can you get the rib cage closer to the thighs? Are the legs able to straighten more? If you don't have a wedge, you can use a blanket or a book. Same thing, just prop the heels up onto the blanket or book, have the ball of the foot onto the floor. If that improves your forward fold, you might want to look at working through your calves. Some tennis ball action there. Okay, let's look at some common errors in standing forward fold and how to fix them. And the first one is that people are very eager to get towards the floor, that they fold from the mid-back. They fold from the thoracic and then they get kind of stuck. They kind of get here and they stick. So the mistake there is that people are trying to fold from their back and not their hips. We want to be folding from the hip, and the hip is right into your bikini line here. So when you fold from the hip, you crease and fold. If you think about it like a bicep curl, it's the equivalent of trying to fold from your humerus, your upper arm, rather than the elbow. Not that you can bend your humerus that way. And this is where it's important that if you're trying to fold from the upper back, then use a chair. So use a chair for support. If you have a high enough chair that comes into your hip crease, then go for that. But come close and think about folding over the chair here so that you drive it into the hip crease. You can also do it this way, wedging it into the groins here. If you're doing it this way, then support the chair legs against the wall and hinge over this way so that you get used to that hinging action. Another way that I like to think about this is make yourself some finger pointers. Place the finger pointers into that hip crease, thumbs towards your bum, and then as you fold, think about squeezing and kind of putting it into a little cave of the groin here. You're trapping the fingers into the hip crease. The second mistake that I often see in a standing forward fold is the people that do this kind of hunched over fold rather than hinging from the hip, and then they reach towards the floor but don't support their upper body. If you're a huncher, if you're a hunchy folder, first of all, fix it by doing the trick with the chair. But second of all, if you have no other choice and you can't flex from the hips here, then use a chair or a block for some support. Take the pressure off your upper and lower back and your discs. So another thing that I see in standing forward fold is that people get told to have their feet together. Especially in yoga, we often get told to have the big toes touching and the heels apart. So I'm going to throw that cue straight out of the window. It doesn't work for me personally, and it probably doesn't work for you. One size does not fit all. We are not all made the same. And a good way to test your width of your feet is to take a little walk with your feet and then stop. Wherever your feet land, try your forward fold. How does that feel different to having your legs together? Play with it, explore a different variation. There are no rules. Another mistake that I see in forward fold. So people come down and then they start to look towards the front of their mat as if that's going to get their chest further back towards their legs. Instead, tuck in the chin and allow yourself to breathe into the back body. Relax the neck and the head. Let them just surrender to the floor. Your neck and your lower back are what are called secondary curves. They're curves that are learned as we begin to crawl and walk. They both need to be doing the same thing at the same time. If your lower back is in flexion in your forward fold, then your neck needs to be in that same amount of flexion. Try that, see if it works, see how it feels. And the final mistake that I want to cover today is that people just force their way down towards the floor. Stop forcing, start surrendering. So again, this might mean that you have to have the feet a little wider. It might mean that you have to support the heels. It might mean bringing in a block, doing less work here. As you do less, can you engage more through the quads, through the abdominals, and then think about relaxing into it. Stop forcing and just start surrendering. Start breathing into it. Again, let the back body widen. Support your body so that you can surrender into the fold. Okay, my loves, I hope that helped give you some tips and tricks on how to do Uttanasana, forward fold. If you enjoyed this video, then give me a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe if you're not already. And remember, my loves, that karma is only a bitch if you are. So be nice, be kind, and be the change that you want to see in the world.